everyone. Welcome to the Not a Lonely Coffee Break podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Meaghan. We're a podcast about coffee and work, but make it queer.
Oh, Meaghan, I am still dissecting everything from our chat on our last episode.
Yeah.
Just been thinking about money and again, how I don't have it.
Where is it? Where do I find it?
I am a workaholic trying to get money.
Yeah.
But I am really excited because we actually have a listener who is a big fan of the show and we're a big fan of him. And he is actually a financial advisor. And so he has offered to come speak with us today to give us some quick tips and information to just continue to help us navigate making smart financial decisions in life. Dan and I met about a year ago now, maybe a year and a half ago. We were at an event and just got to talking, and we have grown into just a little friendship of sharing tips and tricks with everyone. So join us in welcoming our friend Dan. Hey, welcome. Woo!
Thank you. Nice to be
We're
on
so
with both of
excited
you.
to have you. Yes, we're so excited to have you. And for anyone who doesn't know who Dan is, y'all, Dan is a awesome person. For our listeners who
Yes.
don't know who you are, why don't you go ahead and tell us?
My history of work is in youth development. I came out of college as a math teacher. I began in elementary, switched to middle school about halfway through that chapter of my life. For the past 3.5 years, I have been a licensed financial advisor. And so I hold licenses to design and sell personal lines of insurance, as well as design financial plans. What should people be thinking about? What should people be doing with their money so that they can build the life of their and their household dreams? They have strove to bring that educator and that teacher's heart to my new work.
Nice.
One of the big reasons we had you on the show is because last episode we got a little chit-chatty about things that a lot of people don't like to talk about, but it's a major source of stress for so many people, and that is money. Money, benefits, and that we never know how to navigate it in our workplaces. And when it comes to money, we never have enough of it. So right out of the gate, for someone who feels like they're just trying to survive financially right now, where would you recommend that they start?
I would recommend that they start with a period of reflection on what they would like their money to do for them. We work so hard to earn it, and it owes us that time and energy back, honestly. And so one of the first conversations that I have with anyone, whether they're making $10 an hour or $100,000 a year, what's the target? What are we shooting at? And so I would counsel someone who feels like they're just surviving. What is going to push the needle forward? And that could be anything. That could be something as small as I want to start a savings account and build up $1,000 for the first time. But the more small objectives you're able to achieve, the more momentum you're able to build. Money is equal parts mathematical as well as emotional. So that'll give you that first little win. Put those on paper, whatever you decide with your spouse or, whoever you're living with, your siblings and things like that. Put that somewhere where you're likely to see them so that you're able to come back to it and say, I'm making progress.
That's awesome. I mean, because we don't ever, put time into you're right. You had said we put so much time into making money, but we never really put time into what we want to do with that money or plan with that money. It's super rings true because, you're just like, I made money. I need to spend it right now. But last episode, we were talking about how hard it is to care about the retirement, the later, and worry And then on the other hand, worry about the rent, groceries, healthcare, and whatever else we're having to do today. So how would someone balance saving for the future with needing that money right now?
The good news is that you can adjust these things on the fly. I've seen folks who every 2 weeks to a month will scale back or scale forward what they're putting into retirement funds based on, did we make more money this month than last month? Based on is my kid going to college and we've got to buy up their whole apartment, right? And so the counsel I'd give is this: look at it as often as feels natural and make adjustments as you go. Secondly, remember that employer match. If you're lucky enough to have one, you can always scale back. Every dollar that you put towards future you is going to quite literally pay dividends along the line. And if you need to stop for a while and focus on the immediate priorities, the paying off debt, the making sure we've got enough to eat because eggs went to $20 a carton.
Yeah.
Go ahead and give yourself permission to do that, right? It can change on a dime, and the gift you're giving yourself is that you're focusing on what's the immediate priority.
It seems like really great advice. It seems really practical, but it's easier said than done, Dan. Easier said than done.
Right.
Yeah.
And the best way to go about it that I've found, because you're right, we can put all the numbers in a spreadsheet. We can say to ourselves, this is the year, this is the quarter that we're going to pay some of this off. Who are you telling about it? Do you have a bestie, who's like kind of your, working through this with you? Or, that's where a financial advisor honestly comes in as that trusted accountability partner to say, are we following the plan? Are we rolling with the punches? Yeah, some things are going to happen, but are we on that track towards success? I've got clients who I will text, I'll set the future text kind of thing, for the first of each month for a message to go out and say, how did the payments go this month? Is there anything I can help with? Always here for a 5-minute call.
Yeah, that's super cool that you said it as like an accountability buddy, right? Like someone to keep you on track. Because, when I think about it, if I don't hit, I'm like, okay, I'm going to save $150 a month or whatever. And I'm like, I can't do $150. I'm going to do 100. And I'm like, well, screw it. I've already screwed up my savings plan. I feel like I've already failed because I'm already having to take back. But if you're saying like, hey, it's okay to dial it up, dial it down, as long as we're tracking it.
So when someone is perhaps evaluating a job offer, people tend to look at, okay, what has the highest salary, but what financial benefits should we be paying close attention to besides that?
A job offer is a full package, right? So, the salary is the big sexy number that everyone looks at. That's on the front of the package. And once you go into the weeds a little bit, you start to realize things like insurance coverages, things like retirement matching can be just as important. The way I coach people is that insurance is the paramount ground floor of a financial plan. We can spend years and years building up assets and wealth and growth and things like this. If something happens to you, knock on wood, we hope it doesn't, but that can all come crashing down very, very quickly, right? The firm I work for pictures every financial plan as a house, and insurance is what represents that foundation of that house. We are robust against the earthquake, the tornado, the tidal wave. Whatever comes our way, we're going to be okay because we've got that coverage in place. I'll share an example that I learned from a colleague of mine, because I think, when we're thinking about job A and job B, if job A is paying you, $100,000 a year, just to use a nice round number, but you get hurt and all of a sudden, medically you cannot go to work, your doctors prescribe that you need to rest up, you need to just take some time and some weight off of it. that drops to zero.
Mm-hmm.
And that can have dire consequences for, paying your bills. Job B, on the other hand, maybe it pays 97, 98, but it has that disability coverage that the employer is paying for, that we've dug deep into a little bit. We understand how it works. Now, heaven forbid, if we do get hurt, if we, get in a car crash on the way home, who knows what it is, you're still paying a portion of your salary. So when you're evaluating those options, take a look at the benefits package, run it by someone you trust, whether that's an insurance broker, your friend in finance, whoever it may be, to get a sense of what it all means. And then that's going to help you make the most informed decision.
No, it really is about really taking a big look. And I think we said this, but like taking a look to see where you really are getting the most bang for your buck.
Right.
Because that lower salary could actually end up being the better overall package to set you up for success.
Yeah.
And it may make you realize, the higher salary would be nice, but, does it square again with my goals, what I want out of my money after reflection, right? If I can live just as well and be as happy and as, in good spirits on 97 as I am on 100, or even, 57 versus 60. That's what's going to matter most, is that you are yourself, you're doing really good work that matters, and you're fulfilling.
Mm. Yeah. So, I mean, well, speaking of the benefits package and the things that we should look out for, 401 in the 401k, if your employer offers a retirement match, how important is it to take advantage of that? And what should someone understand about things like vesting before assuming they're getting quote unquote that free money?
Yeah. That's a good question. And it is certainly one of the first things I ask about when I meet someone new and we start talking shop a little bit is, do you know if your employer offers a match? Do you know if you're taking advantage of it? And at what percentage, right? First of all, the awareness of whether it's there and if its scale is based on tenure or something like that, those are all good things to look into. The free money conversation, it's a good one to have. What people need to realize is that, yes, while the free money from a match is a good thing, you're also not going to realize that free money for, in most cases, decades. You are going to get that market growth on that free money. So it is a very good thing to take advantage of. If someone is starting in investing, that is where I'll point them first as a fiduciary who, thinks of the client first. Yes, I could recommend that they invest with me, but I'm going to say, take advantage of what's already being given to you. Just be aware that you may not be able to touch it. In most cases, the IRS says until you're 59 and a half years old. There's always exceptions, but, the penalty coming out may not be what you want to see.
Yeah, I had mentioned last time, it's sometimes you really try to say, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to touch it. I'm not going to touch it. But then, those situations do come where you're like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to take a few $1,000s out of this and hope I remember to put it back or be responsible enough to put it back. Cause a lot of times, you just get tight and you're just like, well, goodbye. And then, you have, especially in the past with economic crisis and recessions and stuff like that, you see a lot of people pulling out too much. And so, yeah, just having to understand that long term.
Of course. My colleagues and I, we teach people to have buckets of savings, right? What are you going to need and use in the next couple of years to buy your first home, to replace the car that's got, we love that dang car, but it's got 150,000 miles on it, right? And so those are the short-term goals. What are we going to need it for in the next year or two? Or, if the car breaks down, heaven forbid. The midterm goals, where do we want to be in 7 to 10 years? Is there anything in particularly big trip to mark our 10th anniversary, things of that nature? Those can be placed in more liquid vehicles where you don't necessarily have the penalties to get your hands on them before that 59 and a half. When people see someone like me, a financial advisor, they assume, oh, we're going to be talking about retirement. And that is super important because the best gift you can give yourself is to grow your money over several decades. However, I also want you to live your life in the meantime, right? And so that means saving for those wins in the meantime too, being able to get a really good rate on your home purchase, or being able to go on that really cool trip and not put it on credit.
All of that makes sense, because for me, I think that I never have enough savings, but I
Of
do
course.
know some of those big expenses that you just mentioned. That is usually what gets me, is like any
Mhm.
savings I build up, I'll be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm doing really good right now." And then like this huge thing happens and I do have to like replace a car or trap 12 skunks that were living under my house.
I remember that
Yeah, that'll
episode.
happen.
Or and like those are those things that it's like I can't ignore it anymore. And so I've got to use this money.
Right.
I
Yeah,
was just sitting here thinking like everyone makes financial decisions, right? And we're
Mhm.
all wanting to make smart financial decisions. When it comes to debt, right? Like our generation, aka those of us right now on the show, we might have some listeners outside of this demographic.
Generation.
But us millennials, we did have some interesting financial decisions in our youth that we're now sort of paying for in adulthood. So, I mean,
Mhm.
when it comes to things like debt, like student loans and credit cards and all of that, I mean, is there a strategy that works best in trying to get some of that taken care of so that you can start to build more of that security without the debt?
There is. The lifeblood of any financial plan, whether we are building wealth, whether we are paying off debt, regardless of what we're doing or what we're saving for, is a very, very good budget. And so, in essence, what we need to do is we need to figure out what's coming in and what's going out. And by the way, when I have that conversation with people, I encourage them to look very carefully at their pay stub, because that will determine everywhere that you might not have guessed your money is going before it hits your checking account on the second and fourth Fridays of the month, right? So if there are, speaking of benefits, packages that someone signed you up for when you onboarded, and you've never heard of this thing in your life, making sure, because it'll appear on the pay stub, that your employer match is actually happening, that sort of thing. That's going to be money that's put back in your pocket. But the short answer to your question, if we're going to make a good plan to pay off debt, it starts with knowing where every dollar is going.
It really is truly another language. I really wish that, we spent more time in our youth learning about money and budgeting and making a simple budget. I don't think I saw a real whole budget until I started working in like office manager stuff. Like until I started working in nonprofit, because we had to fix our own budgets and manage those budgets. And I'm like, is anyone going to teach me how to do this? And they're like, nope. And I was like, all right, well, I know how to pay my electricity, so let's see how this works.
Yeah.
And so, I'm like, do I need to, like, that's how thorough I need to be, is to budget out things like that. And so,
Right.
yeah,
Can I give a hot take that I think your audience will appreciate?
We
always.
love a good hot take.
Yes.
Okay, here it is. He was a math teacher, right? And so that in middle school math, that runs the gamut from algebra to architecture to this and that. But when I would get my state standards from the state of Texas every year, it has financial literacy on there from 12th grade all the way down to kindergarten, right? There are, certain benchmarks that supposedly a middle schooler or a high schooler, whoever it is, must meet when thinking about budgeting and business planning and this and that. Why doesn't it get taught? Can we think of a reason?
They don't want us to know how to manage our money.
Yeah, it's because then we're easier to control, which is a hot take in and of itself. Well,
Sorry, I
They
don't
want
know
us
if that
to
was the
be
angle.
poor.
I don't know if that was the angle you were trying to go with, but yeah, the system wants to keep us poor. because
honestly, like
money
I
equates
sympathize
to
with
power.
that. Money does equate to power, right? Those who have and those who have not.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I've come up with, as someone with a foot in both camps, in education and in finance, it's not on the test.
Yeah.
Mm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you both grew up in Texas. I grew up in Illinois. I'm a Texan transplant, but the pressure, of course, is to teach to what kids are going to be tested on STAR, or I haven't been keeping it. I don't know what the heck they call it now, but the financial literacy standards are in what's called the supporting part of the curriculum, not the readiness part. And so what ends up happening is it falls by the wayside in favor of, yes, algebra is important because it teaches one how to think. And that is just as important as anything else that we do as teachers and educators. But the way that I could pull in a student who, really had their heart set on being an entrepreneur or a artist or an author or a politician is I could say, you're going to make money doing these things. And I want you to know how to treat it. I want you to be the master of your money so that it does not become the master of you. And they say, oh, you're right, Mr. Klonowski. Math is important. Told you so.
And you're like, got you.
But also, why is it not on the test? Because we want you to stay poor.
Because we're all
prioritizing different things.
The two hot takes are connected, yes, intricately.
Yes.
Together. It's the same.
It's all the same, Lordy. Yeah, I always forget that part.
No, I think it's also one thing that, I want to have financial wellness. My finances are something that frequently are a source of stress for me. And every time I feel like I get a good handle on it, I realize I don't have a good handle on it. It's really hard, I think, to come up with something that works for you. But I do think you've given us some practical ideas to consider as we are trying all to navigate how we can better handle our finances
and
not feel as stressed out about it. But what is, I guess, with all of this in mind, because I know I can't be the only one that's kind of feeling sometimes like I'm drowning in financial stuff. What would be one piece of financial advice people hear all the time that you think might need more context?
Might need more context. I hear a lot the advice to pay off any and all debt before one starts investing. And here's the thing. Growth is good, no matter how big or small it is. And not all debt is created equal. That's the other side of that conversation. Ultimately, when it comes down to debt, yes, I want you to invest, and give yourself that power when you are as young as 18 and you're coming out of high school and entering the workforce. Debt, it's not bad in and of itself. What is bad is if we do not have a plan for it, right? Either we are creating irresponsible amounts of debt or we are, letting it go unchecked without a plan to pay it back, right? Usually buying one's first home is one of the, best wealth building decisions one can make over time. Obviously, the three of us are in Dallas, Fort Worth, where it is almost impossible not to, support an economic engine without a working vehicle. So these are things we need. These are things we need. And we need to face up to the facts of, yes, I might go into debt and I might have a car payment or, certainly I might have a mortgage payment. But if this is something that supports my overall goal, again, going back to that reflection, what do I want out of my money and my finances? If I have always envisioned myself, my spouse, my dog, my cat, my lizard, whatever it is, in a really nice house, and that is what financial wellness looks like to me, more power to you. Then we'll figure out a way to, get you really good credit. We'll figure out how much house you can afford, and we'll hand you the keys.
That makes sense. And, because I liked how you said, not all debt is created equally, right? And just being able to recognize, okay, this stuff I could probably sit on a little bit longer. I can pay off faster this guy. Just being really strategic with the way you're laying it out and thinking about it.
The thing that a lot of folks our age forget to do is they see the debt amount, and then one of my next questions when I'm working with someone new is, what's the rate on that debt? And if the answer is, I don't know, my next charge to that, find out, right? because when we talk about debt not being created equal, there's a huge difference between a 28% rate on a credit card and a student loan that's 3 to 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
The student loans are meant and designed to be long-term debt, or at least longer term debt than a credit card is.
Yeah.
Once someone gets through the mental block of talking about money, then the floodgates open, and we want to ask questions because we want to learn more and do better.
Are there financial benefits or protections that LGBTQ plus individuals and couples should be particularly thoughtful about?
Yeah, this is an excellent question. And I appreciate that it is the one that made me think and research. So thank you for that. The two answers that I came up with are these. Number one, the government subsidizes marriage in a lot of different ways. And so, you are in a lower tax bracket, making the same income as a married couple than each of you would be individually. You have more privileges to, a spouse's inherited money if, you are the second to go.
Mm-hmm.
You qualify for, better healthcare coverage, things like that. And so, intricately states where it is easier, how do I say, socially accept. I mean, I hate that we even have to talk about this, but
Yeah. Yeah.
where it is easier to be legally married are, where we're going to find benefits. The other thing that I came up with is, just don't forget about the resources that are out there because people are fighting tooth and nail. And by that, I mean scholarships that are, specifically available to people who identify in the LGBT community for either jobs where that demographic is underrepresented, for education and self-improvement, and that sort of thing. The wonderful example that I can bring, which I, of course, made sure to clear with the individual I'm speaking about rather. My dear friend from college really wanted to get into brewing. He's built a career for himself as a beer brewer up in Minneapolis and St. Paul, Minnesota. And he was able to find, I believe it's called the Pride Beer Dabbler Scholarship in town, and, put himself through brewing school on, the dime of I think it's a nonprofit that just supports, education for LGBTQ individuals in Minnesota who want to get into specific fields. So those are my two things, get married if you can, fight like hell if for whatever reason you can't, and don't lose sight of the scholarships as well.
Right. Super
I
cool.
love that. Also, we love a good brew. Dan's
Yeah.
friend. You can send us some.
Yes. So Dan,
Yes.
are there any questions that you feel people get embarrassed asking you that are actually a completely normal question?
Completely normal question is, how do I start?
Oh.
Right. We talked earlier on in the episode about how this is not a subject that gets talked about in school, or certainly in public school, that everyone has supposedly access to, the great equalizer. And so, a lot of folks in the generation that's 35 and younger are coming to me and say, I know that managing my finances is super important. I just don't know where to begin. Like, no one taught me how to do this. Is it okay if we just sit down and we start from square one? Absolutely it is. One of my favorite questions for a young professional is this. On a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable do you feel with investing and insurance and the whole jargon in general? And if someone
0.
says 1 or 2, beautiful, right? I get to be your sage.
You're like, yes.
So
Gotcha.
I think that's a really good way to wrap up the whole episode, is by saying, if this is something that's been on the back of your psyche, on the back of your mind, because you're searching for the right person to do it with, I strive to be, just as effective with someone who's retiring tomorrow as I am with someone who's just out of the gate and has no idea what they're doing, right? Because the coolest thing that I get to see is when someone grows in their understanding and they come back to me and they say, Dan, because of you, I was able to achieve my goal.
That's
right?
awesome.
That's what
Mhm.
gives a teacher the warm fuzzies, is when, someone comes back a couple years later and says, "Thank you, I did it."
Yeah.
No, I love it. I think we had lots of great reflection moments during this episode. Lots of great information. Just as Megan and I go on this journey of how can we be more financially aware in our workplaces and our personal life, all of it, so that we don't
Mhm.
feel so stressed.
Right.
Yeah, it's
The
so vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
the lack of stress comes when, we give ourselves permission to open up to an expert and say,
Yeah.
I need help with this. I know on the previous week's episode, we talked a little bit about how open enrollment lasts about a week and there's 10,000 calls coming into a team of 10 people.
Mm-hmm.
Right. One of my favorite things about my job is that I get to shepherd people over the course of years, not, days or weeks. And so if
Mm-hmm.
you're beginning a friendship and a clientship, which, I mean, at a certain point, what's the difference with someone like me? We are going to, look back at the notes in 5 years, and I promise you, we are going to be amazed at how far we've come.
That's
Mm-hmm.
awesome.
Well, thank you, Dan, for joining us and helping us talk through a hard topic. We really
Yes.
do appreciate you and your words of encouragement and wisdom.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Maddie and Meaghan, I am just about out of coffee.
We don't usually do it with our guests, but we would love to give a little
Yum.
closing for you.
Yes. Long
So,
time. Ready? Cheers.
Cheers,
queer.
squeeze.
All right. Well, thank you so much again to Dan. And listeners, we will tag Dan on social media. Dan, can they reach out to you? Can they
They
send you a little
certainly
DM?
can. Yes, please do.
If you just kind of have one of those questions like he mentioned of just where do I get started? And I'm sure he can help point you in the right direction. But thanks again. You are awesome. And I'm sure we'll see you around.
We'll see you
Thank you
around.
both.
Yeah.
See you soon.
Bye. Thanks. I am so glad we had him on. So happy. I mean, the fact that he was like, I know your tagline. He's like, I want it. I was like, you could do whatever.
I know. Like, I knew that he listened to this show, but like, shout out Dan. You're like a proper fan.
Yes. So I am so happy we were finally able to have Dan on the show. It was a
Yeah.
lot of great information.
Mhm.
I personally go into a you know how we have like grooves in our brain? Like anytime we talk about financial stuff, like my
Mhm.
brain gets real smooth, y'all. I don't know what is happening. I don't know what you're
The
saying.
the glazed eyes.
Glazed. I'm like the math equations around my head and then a small explosion at the end of it. So I am really glad that we had him on here to ask some of those questions that
Mhm.
are very difficult to ask your HR or job or a financial advisor. So
Honestly, sometimes they're even, and we didn't even talk about this on the show, but like sometimes it's like really even, it's like a hard conversation to even have with like your loved ones, like your
yeah.
partner, your spouse, because it is so vulnerable. And sometimes people don't want to admit that maybe they've made a poor financial decision or they're not sure what decision to make regarding finances. And so I think, yeah, I was really grateful that Dan gave us the insight that he did and really just got us thinking about how we can really start to change that narrative and be more independent and confident in our financial decisions.
And then rule the world when we turn 65. Like,
That's the
honestly.
dream. That's
yeah.
the dream.
Yeah.
What is
so
it? That's the dream.
That's the dream. And with a small, you do the clap, I'll do the tiny violin. All at the same time. So, listeners, I really hope y'all got a lot of information. I hope those questions sparked more questions because honestly, if we're not asking a lot of questions about how we're spending our money, you should be. Because it'll go and drain away, and you're like, what did I do this past year? Because I have no monies. So, yeah, I really hope that, if you're in that new job transition, maybe you can start thinking about some things that maybe are new to you and can get you on the right track.
For sure. I agree. But unfortunately,
We're double
I
out.
am out of coffee.
Yeah, I
for the
actually need
day.
to go now, Maddie. No.
So
Just
that
kidding.
is our cue to wrap up. But thank you all again for joining us today, and make sure that you subscribe if you have not already.
Be sure that you're connected with our socials and continue the conversation. We want to hear your questions about your experience in the workplace.
Absolutely. We love social media. You can find us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and Patreon. And of course, always be sure to check out the show on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple. We hope that you will continue to join us for Not a Lonely Coffee Break. Again, we are your hosts. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Meaghan.
Cheers, queer.
queers.